forum, I would like to call the August 10, 2020 meeting of the Acton Board of Selectmen to order. The town of Acton, in response to COVID-19, for instance, coronavirus, is currently following the guidance from the Acton Board of Health, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. The town hall is closed to the public. This meeting will be broadcast live, local access cable on ActonTV, on the ActonTV channel, or streaming online at the ActonTV YouTube live channel, and audio will be broadcast live on the radio on WAEM 94.9 FM. To participate remotely from a computer, please click on the link to join the public meeting webinar, which is https://zoom.us/j/5039187885, or from a telephone dial 646-876-9923 and enter webinar:503-918-785. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computer and app users may use the quote raise hand feature to request to speak. So, are there any citizens' concerns at this moment?
No one has that.
Okay, so we'll move into the update section, which will include a member's minute. These updates from the chair, there were two good ZBA decisions last week. The ZBA unanimously approved and granted a comprehensive permit to the Powder Mill development. That's 230 rental apartment units, which will put us over the 10% 40B threshold, and that's based on the 2010 census. And they also approved the Grandview project, which is 32 ownership units. This is over on Route 2A. 24 would be 1 and 2 bedroom owner units, ranging in price from about $425 to about $475,000, and the 8 affordable ownership units would be between $200,000 and $210,000. So those are two very good things. David will be receiving tomorrow from David his proposed proposal for the structuring and composition and charge to the Equity and Inclusivity Advisory Commission. At this morning's ALG meeting, Steve Barrett reported on first quarter real estate tax receipts. Those bills were due on August 3rd. As of Friday, August 7th, we had a 91% collection rate. Steve said August collections are kind of quirky because both people are away and houses transfer ownership. And the receipts billed through the end of the month, and in immediate prior years, we had high up in the 90 collection rates as of the end of the month. So he said he didn't see any deterioration in collections so far over prior years. Wanted to report on the dog park issue. I walked Isaac Davis Way on Thursday, July 30th, with Matt Post and his wife Laura. The part that is inside where the four families have houses, and the part of Isaac Davis Way that intersects the town's property on Main Street, the east side, which would be where the affordable housing unit would go up, and the west side, where the proposed where a potential dog park site is located. And I spoke with him at some length, and it's really good to actually see what it is that we're talking about. And then on Friday afternoon at the high school gazebo, Joan and John and I met with the 4 Isaac Davis property owners. And it was a very calm, very reasonable, thoughtful discussion, but it's very clear that they do not want, for a range of reasons, the dog park on that site. So what I plan to do is put on for our second August meeting on the 24th, a discussion of possible dog park sites, including the Main Street site, and invite the dog park committee and invite the Isaac Davis Way people. And I think we should look at other sites as well. We did look at the Quarry Road site in Nara last summer, and several people have suggested to me, why don't you consider a site on Morrison Farm? There are 30 acres. So let's put a number of these things on the table. It was one of our short-term goals to secure a site for the dog park. I think the committee by and large is committed to a dog park. It's just the question of where to locate it. And it always, turns out the committee has worked really hard and thoughtfully on it, but, there always turns up, fair and reasonable neighborhood and abutter objections. So that would be my update. Let me turn to John next, please.
Good evening. Just a few updates of what's happening. Hopefully you've visited Town Hall to our outdoor window hours, 10 to 12, Monday through Thursday. We've been seeing about a dozen people or more every day on each window. So I think people appreciate the opportunity to come visit with Town Hall, and we certainly love seeing our residents back near the building, if not in the building. To that note, early voting this year for the upcoming election is going to start on August 22nd, which is a Saturday, and then it'll be August 22nd and August 23rd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then that full week from the 24th through the 28th, it'll be from 8:30 in the morning till 5 p.m. And the voting location for early voting is the Town Hall. You report to the back rear entrance, and we will be working on a system of queuing people and allowing people to enter just to place their vote, and then they will leave. So we're still working on the final logistics, but that is the plan. And stay tuned for the information on our website, but that's a preview. So again, it's 822 and 823 from 9 to 1, and 824 to 828, 8:30 to 5. So find a time that works for you in that slot. If you'd like to vote early, you can still vote through mail. You should have received an application already. If not, call the town clerk's office. You have until, let's see, the deadline to vote by mail is the 22nd, it looks like. So, and then other news, North Acton Fire Station project. This is a big project that the community supported over the winter. We've been working on the planning and design. We've been working on the planning and design, and we just went out to bid last week. The bids were received. The pricing was very competitive, and it's within our budget, so we're very pleased with that. We'll be doing some final due diligence on the contractor and issuing an award, and they should be starting soon. I would like to talk to the board about a groundbreaking, probably not before they actually break ground, but at an appropriate time after they break ground, where we get people out there with some golden shovels or silver shovels or whatever metal you'd like. And I just also wanted to mention that we have, since March, had a hiring and a spending freeze in place. And I know the board has provided me some sort of input over the last few weeks and months about making sure that it was still the right thing to do. I still think it is, but we are looking at positions on a case-by-case basis. we do have some key positions that we need to fill. And so I am starting to look at filling some of these in the coming month. And the good news from Steve Barrett this morning to ALG, it gives us a little more confidence that we can start looking at some of these positions. Not all of them. I still think it's important to maintain some controls, but we are going to start looking at a few one positions. So if there's any concerns about that, please let me know. I just wanted to mention it. We are still being pretty tight with spending. Focusing primarily on what we need to provide services during this pandemic climate. But I wanted to mention the hiring freeze is going to be looked at on a case-by-case basis going forward.
Okay, so, Joan?
Yeah, John, can you drop a ballot off at one of the windows?
Yes, if you have a mail-in ballot, you can drop it off at the window, yes. In the envelope, preferred. Or required. It needs to be in the envelope.
Mr. Manager, I know I've asked this question before, but I'm going to ask it again. When should we have received our ballots for the primary? I'm asking because in my 3-member household, one person has received her ballot and the other 2 have not.
Okay, that's interesting. I will look into your household, but generally people should receive them within the last week.
Okay. So
Right.
basically you're saying if someone doesn't have their ballot by now, they might want to contact the clerk.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
And that phone number is 978-929-6620, or email to clerk@actonma.gov.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to our first member minute. Dean?
Thank you. Just 2 items, 3 items actually. Number 1, I'll be meeting with some representatives of the Historical Commission. They are interested in pursuing an archaeology bylaw to protect some of the archaeological resources that potentially are found underground. These would be both Native American and colonial in nature. So they've got a model bylaw from another town. I'm going to be meeting with them a little bit more, but I think that's a potential item that might be brought to town meeting in the spring. So that's one item. Second item, at ALG today, John Peterson from the regional school district raised an issue that they have going on with the synchronizing of the terms of offices for school committee between Acton and Boxborough. They've had a situation with, they were able to seat the new members from Boxborough about a month before they were able to seat the new members from Acton, just because of the way the charters of the 2 towns operate. So he inquired at first if, since we're talking about charter changes in September, can we add this to the warrant? And I said no. But it's something that probably could be talked about in the future. And I think David, you're the liaison to the regional school committee, so it's something you might want to be tuned into, that they might be looking for some sort of a change to the town charter. I think, this is a one-time event just because of the COVID-19 situation and the delay of our town meeting, but I think they'd like to see some kind of changes or some consideration. So that'll be something that might be stirring around out there. And lastly, as you know, one of our goals is a suitable commemoration for Carol Spinney, aka Big Bird. And I've been working with Mike Majors. He's sort of leading the charge on it. I think you've probably seen some of the new Big Bird, Act and Be Kind signs that have popped up around town. And we'd like to pursue that a little bit more and look at some other actions we might take. So I'd like to see if in a future meeting of the Selectmen, we could put that on as an agenda item to kick around some ideas. And just Mike did send over something for show and tell. So that's one of his suggestions is looking at making that community way that we'll be inheriting as part of the Kelly's Corner project, perhaps memorializing that for Carol Spinney. So at some point, as time allows, in the selectmen's agendas, I'd like to be able to talk about that in more depth. That's it.
Thank you. Jim?
Hi. So as the new guy, I don't have a rich sense of what all my committees are up to, but at least I've touched base with all of them. I think the thing that I want to bring to the attention of the committee, of the board, is that you've seen that the Acton Water District has sent out a notice about arsenic, which briefly went over the legal limit of 10 parts per billion and went up to 11. They found that and fixed it. What I observe is that the standard letters for the language from that the state requires that goes out to residents can create quite a sense of fear and concern. So I would encourage any of you that hear from people who have concerns about about Acton's water, either this new arsenic announcement or the old PFAS announcements, to call the Acton Water District. Everyone I've talked to who has done that has had really good experiences talking directly to the people in the know about what's going on, what's planned, and what to do next. It has saved some people from the big expense of suddenly installing various kinds of whole house filtering systems, which are not always the appropriate solution for this kind of problem. So I just wanted to mention that's a live concern for a lot of residents.
David?
Nothing for me this week, John. Thank you.
Thank you. Joan?
All set.
Okay. So then let's move to the special town meeting and the setting the time, date, and location. John?
You're on mute, John.
So we've been working with the school district and on the moderator to identify an appropriate time to suggest for town meeting, and the school is going back 9/14. So that was the date we were initially thinking. And so that's not a good day for that reason. The date that we have for you to consider tonight is 9/8, which is the day after Labor Day. We believe that day is workable from our staff standpoint, and we could set the whole place up that morning, and our vendors are available, and it works for the school district as well.
So we say Tuesday, September 8th. What would be the time?
The last meeting started at 6, I believe. And I think that could work just fine to do that again, unless the board has another idea.
So is that would the 6 o'clock start time be good? It's a much shorter warrant than we dealt with in back in June. The days are shorter. Joan?
Yeah, will it be inside and outside or just outside?
The direction we received from the board last time was to make it exactly as we did it last time. So we're going to endeavor to do that as much as possible, which includes an inside-outside component. We may not rent as many porta potties this time because they weren't. We're going to do the same.
6 o'clock then, Jim?
Couple questions. One is this the kind of event where we plan a rain date or what?
Probably would make sense to be thinking about a rain date, and given what we've learned from the schools, it'd be best to try to get the meeting completed that week. So I would recommend that we look at the very next night, and then or the next night after that, and continue in that pattern until we get the meeting accomplished.
Jim?
One other question. I see that the governor has changed meeting sizes both inside and out. And I wanted to make sure that our town meeting was somehow different or exempt from those. And if so, how is that okay?
Yeah, do you want me? Yeah, in one of his earlier orders back at end of March, beginning of April, the cities and towns legislative bodies are exempt from the prohibitions he's placed on other gatherings. So our legislative body is the town meeting, so we could have more than this would be in the outdoor gathering would be, it's more than 100, probably more than 100, and the indoor gathering would be a little more than 100 if we have the same numbers as last time, but they're exempt.
Thanks. And I guess, I assume we conferred last time with the Board of Health on how to arrange a town meeting so that it would be safe enough for people.
We work closely with the Board of Health, including attending a meeting for input. All reports were positive from a health standpoint following that meeting, but we'll certainly check in with them again just to make sure.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I moved September 8th for the special town meeting beginning at 6 o'clock.
And if you take a friendly amendment, that it be at the high school field house and parking lot in a hybrid format. So is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Any public comment?
Nobody with their hand up, John.
Okay, David, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Snyder Grant,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Charter,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
and I also say aye, so it's unanimous.
Okay, very good. So we're set. So then, if we could move to a discussion of the draft articles that we received from Mark Hall last night. So it looks like there would be potentially 4 discussion articles: the land acquisitions on Piper Lane, and we can report that the PNS for the transaction was signed last week by all parties. So that's good to go. Amending the town charter, the title of the chief executive, which would be from Board of Selectmen to Select Board. The payment in lieu of taxes for the pilot for the Acton Water District. And then what was put on as a placeholder that I'll speak to in due course would be the to fund the small business grant program from free cash. So, John, or Jim, if you could talk about what the pilot program is with the water district.
Let's have John talk about that.
That's listed as number 8 on the agenda for tonight.
Yeah.
But I can
Okay.
review right now if you'd like.
Sure.
So the projects that you received a presentation regarding a few months ago that the Water District has planned for large solar projects on some land they own near Route 2. The proposal is for them to have a pilot agreement in order to have a contribution to the town, similar to what we have with the solar installation at the landfill. Since it's privately owned, it's being leased by a private entity on public land. There's a need to have a pilot agreement, and the town meeting authorization is required for the board to enter into this pilot agreement. So this article is just simply giving the board authorization to execute this agreement with the water district's solar
Okay.
company.
So that would require a presentation by a board member.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So what I wanted to speak to was the small business a grant program. As you remember, we had initially voted to fund the program out of our $2.1 million CARES allocation. And it's certain the program on advice of council was it certainly fit the federal guidelines. The State Department of Revenue acknowledged that and said their regulation guidelines were quiet on that issue, but they wouldn't allow us or any other town to use CARES money to fund like programs in our town or other communities. And Nina Pickering Cook said we could do it, out of free cash. It would not be wise if it just was an action taken by our board. It could be challenged, and she said the wiser course would be put it to a town meeting vote. That wouldn't void the possibility that some taxpayer could bring a lawsuit challenging it, but if it was town meeting approved, it would stand on firmer footing. You asked me at our last meeting if I would take soundings from the Finance Committee as to their interest in the use of free cash to fund the program. And I presented it to them at their last meeting. It would be 2 weeks, not last week, 2 weeks ago. And there were maybe one or two members in support, probably two members against. 5 were, undecided, at very best, lukewarm towards the idea, but open to further conversation. I took it to the proposal to the Economic Development Committee last week, because this is where the proposal had originated, and they were, staunchly, behind the proposal. The need, there's no guarantees with this, but the need to show support for local businesses and lend a hand, and they voted unanimously in favor of it. So we don't have to vote to recommend this, to take a position on it tonight, but I would ask that we do put it on the warrant and ask Nina Pickering Cook to draft the appropriate article. So is there any comment on this?
What would be the amount of money?
It would be $175,000 or $176,000. What we would be including in the proposal was there were, under the program, 44 local businesses qualified for eligibility. And the eligibility requirements, they had to be a for-profit entity with 1 to 35 employees providing goods or services to multiple clients or customers, and that they have a physical commercial establishment within the town of Acton, and they've experienced a loss of revenue of 50% or more due to COVID-19 closure since March 10th, 2020, and they have gross annual receipts of less than $1.5 million, and they have no outstanding tax liens or legal judgments against them. When we did the proposal originally, 44 put in. We had voted $100,000 for $4,000 grants to each of the businesses. 25 were selected in the lottery, where I think Joan was the official drawer. And the plan was to come back and ask for another $76,000 to fund $4,000 grants for the 19 runners up. So that's where the 44 comes from. And these would be the guidelines, the eligibility requirements, and the funding under the program would be used to meet employee payroll costs, loss of inventory, make rent or mortgage payments or other fixed costs, which were not relieved during the COVID-19 pandemic, and other costs may be considered on a case-by-case basis. So would it be okay to, is there a consensus we could put that on the warrant as well? Jim?
My concern is that if we know that this board won't be in majority favor of it. Oh, sorry, am I freezing?
No, you're good.
You're on now.
Okay, good, sorry. If we know that the board is not in favor of it and FinCom is not going to be in favor of it, it seems just a bad precedent to go ahead and put it on the warrant. It doesn't, it's hard for me to articulate how wrong that would be, but it's like dangling this thing in front of the town and then saying, well, yeah, but no. So I wonder if there's a way of having I agree that it'd be good to have a more formal conversation at a later meeting, but if we can have a quick go round on where people are at with this, it would be helpful.
David?
I have mixed feelings about this. If we held a vote tonight, I don't know how I would vote. I was also quite disappointed that the FinCom didn't express an official sense of their meeting. I agree with Jim in the sense that it makes no sense for us to put something on the warrant that the Finance Committee is going to then give a thumbs down to. It's just a waste of time, especially if the Finance Committee's concern was something that could be fixed in the article. It would be nice to have their input ahead of drafting the article. Anyway, I was pretty disappointed in that. I don't know how I would vote if we're voting tonight, and I don't know how I'd vote on a recommendation. I have mixed feelings about this myself.
Dean?
Yeah, I would be inclined to put it on the agenda. I think I would on the warrant. I would support it. I acknowledge that it's probably going to be a tough push, but I think that at least a majority of us should support it and get it on the warrant, and ultimately let the taxpayers decide.
What percentage of free cash does this represent?
Well, we have 3.7 million in free cash and another 2 million in the special reserve account. So it's about 5.7, and we're asking 5.7 million, and we're asking for $176,000. Okay. When I went to the FinCom, I did not ask them. I took the board's language. Take a sounding. What do they think? I didn't ask them to to make a recommendation either up or down one way. It just was to get a sense and to report back to the selectmen. My view is that the finance committee may not vote in favor of it, or if they did, it may be a 5-4 vote, and this board may be a 3-2 vote. But that's okay. I mean, there are tough issues we faced before. We were that way on recreational marijuana sales, but I found when we sort of deadlocked, the town wants to know what our board thinks, what the finance committee thinks, and it's okay to have a split decision. That's okay. Doré Hunter, one of our forebears, always said, he said, town meeting usually gets it right. So it's a hard issue. I could see both sides of it.
I move that we put it on the warrant.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, are there any further conversation?
There's one person with their hand raised.
Sure, please.
Jason, go ahead.
Thank you very much for letting me speak. First, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Jason Cole. I live second house from the end on Neshoba Road. I would like to ask Selectman Martin if he agreed with the sense of what the Finance Committee what the finance committee's leanings were, if he agrees with the characterization of Selectman Benson.
Yes, actually I do, because I don't know how you guys would have voted had you voted, right? You said there were people who spoke in favor and people who spoke against, and I don't know how you guys would have voted had you voted.
Okay. I obviously cannot speak for the entire committee, but I'm one of the people that is going to strongly advocate against spending taxpayer dollars for a private enterprise. Thank you.
No one else has their hand up, John.
Okay. So is there any further comments from the board? So David, if you would just call the roll to vote on the motion.
Okay. Mr. Snyder Grant,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Charter,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
and I'll vote nay. And so that's 4-1.
Okay. So we have sort of 4 articles, and then there were 4, I guess what we call articles that would be on consent, to accept legislation with respect to statutory speed limits and regulatory safety zones. That requires a majority vote. That I understand is a housekeeping measure that was brought over from, that we didn't put on in June. Jim?
If we're trying to understand the shape of the town meeting, I just wanted to remind the board and bring them up to date on the work of this Acton Climate Coalition that now.
Okay, we'll do that at the end if that's okay. Let's just finish these articles. Yeah.
Sure. Just want to make sure
and-
people knew that was coming.
And then to accept legislation on Saturday office hours, and to release the restriction on Strawberry Hill Road, and to amend the zoning bylaw was a housekeeping correction going back to 2008 relating to a personal wireless facility. So are we all good on putting those articles on as well? David?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good with those 4. I was wondering why the amend town charter one was also not on consent. Do we expect a lot of discussion there? I was just thinking in interest of a shorter town meeting.
That I think that deserves discussion. I mean, that's a big one. It requires 2 votes, both a 2/3 vote of town meeting and then a vote at the next annual town election in March. And I think there'll be some mixed feelings on that. I suspect it will pass, but
Okay.
so are we all set then to put the 4 consent articles on as well? Do we have an update either from John or Jim on the status of the citizens petition on the climate article?
I can do that since
Sure,
it hasn't
please.
been submitted yet. So the coalition is now 30 organizations between faith communities and businesses and nonprofits, and has collected a few more than 200 signatures so far, which is well over the 100 that are needed to put an article on a special town meeting, an existing special town meeting. So after this body decides later tonight when the when things can be filed and when they can't be filed, we'll go ahead and rush that in by the appropriate date. So I guess the only other update I can give on that would be that the Green Advisory Board started talking about this warrant article today. They were speaking favorably of it, but they didn't have the time to come to a formal recommendation to this body. So it'll be up to us to, if we decide that we want to recommend or not this warrant article, we'll need to have it on an agenda in the future before the town meeting. And the feedback I got from the Green Advisory Board was that it's a complex enough topic that it might be worth people checking out the actonclimatecoalition.org website. There are webinars there that people can attend to learn more.
Okay, so the petition hasn't been filed yet.
No, we weren't sure about the legality of filing for a special town meeting that hadn't actually been declared yet. So we were waiting for tonight's final decision.
Okay, that's our next item. So as we go forward, David, would you be amenable to making the presentation on the amending the town charter on the selectmen name change?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, and Dean, would you be willing to do the presentation on Piper Lane?
Yep.
And Jim, if you would do the presentation on the pilot with respect to the Acton Water District.
He's frozen.
You asked me, right?
Yes.
All right, wasn't sure what you said.
Okay, would you
If
be
you're
willing
asking
to
me,
make
yes,
a
I'm
special town
totally
meeting
happy.
presentation on the article?
Yes, I'm
on the-
totally happy to present on that topic. Yes,
Okay.
totally happy to do that.
Okay, and I'll do it on the small business grant program. And Joan, would you be ready if there are the Strawberry Hill release restriction comes off consent? That's right in your neighborhood.
Right.
If you would be willing to make the presentation and explanation on that.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So that would take us to establish the open and close of the warrant for the non-town articles. These would just be for first thing. Those are the citizen petitions. The board can continue to put other articles on. So,
Are you looking for a motion?
well, I'm looking to Jim first. What would be, you have an important climate change article that you have some involvement with. How much time would they need to finish getting their signatures, given the
If the board for some reason decides to put the deadline tonight,
we're not going to do it tonight.
Okay, but tomorrow would be fine too. So we're ready. We have all the signatures. We have the cover form. We're ready to take them to the clerk's office.
Okay, so if it were set for Wednesday at you would close the warrant at the end of a workday, right?
You can set a time certain at your discretion.
Okay, so do I have a motion that we, David?
I was just gonna say, to give people a little bit of notice, maybe we could do it at the end of the week or something,
Okay,
to close the warrant.
all right, so let me have a motion that we close the warrant for non-town articles on Friday, August 14th at 5 p.m.
So move.
Can I make a friendly amendment for noon?
Sure.
Because the town offices close at noon.
Okay, so why don't we say it at noon on Friday the 14th?
In that case, I'll second it.
Okay. Any further board discussion? Any citizen discussion?
No one with their hand raised, John.
Okay, so then David, would you call the roll?
Mr. Snyder Grant,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Charter,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
and I also vote aye, so it's unanimous.
Okay. So you're going to have to bear with me on this one. This is the 46 High Street tree removal. Now, it involves one town bylaw and two state statutes. The town's scenic road bylaw is covered in Chapter J of our general bylaws. High Street, the entire stretch of it, is designated a senior road, a scenic road. Section 15C of Chapter 40 of the general laws provides in part that any repair, maintenance, reconstruction, or paving work done with respect to any road designated as a senior road shall not involve or include the cutting or removal of trees or tearing down or destruction of stone walls or portion thereof, except without the written consent of the planning board. Now, so there are certain notice requirements under Section 15C, as well as Chapter 87(3). It calls for a joint hearing between the planning board and the tree warden. And there are different notice requirements. For the planning board piece of the hearing, which would cover the stone wall removal, tearing down or destruction, you have to have two public notices in successive weeks, at least with the second one being at least 7 days before the hearing, in your local newspaper. The tree warden's piece on the trees requires that as well, plus at least two postings in public places in town, plus a posting on the tree which is going to be taken down. The hearing is then held together, but there are two separate decisions that are made. The planning board issues a decision on the stone wall. The tree warden makes a decision on the trees to be taken down. Now, with respect to the tree piece of it, because that's what we're being questioned on. Chapter 87, Section 4 says that prior to or at a hearing, an objection needs to be made in writing to cut down the public shade tree. And once that is done, the decision is taken out of the hands of the tree warden and is placed in the hands of the Board of Selectmen. The state law, there's nowhere in the two state statutes that provides for an appeal of a tree warden's decision, assuming that there was no comment made prior to or at the public hearing. Now, I had included in the package a 1991 Town of Acton policy on the removal of non-hazardous public shade trees by individuals or agencies other than the town. And Richard Kelleher, who lives on an adjoining street on Brewster Lane, who sent us a letter on July 31, objecting to the two trees coming down, cited Section 13 of the 1991 policy, which says all decisions made by the tree warden are appealable to the Board of Selectmen. Now, when a young Dean Charter, when he was tree warden, was author of that policy. and speaking with Nina Pickering Cook, that policy did not bind future boards. Successor boards, including this board, can readopt that policy and can update it, but it's not binding on us. Now, having said all of that, the planning board voted to approve a subdivision on the 46 High Street property. That's not in dispute by anybody. The planning board did hold their hearing on July 21st. They voted. They approved the removal of the stone wall. The tree warden subsequently made a decision that to remove the two trees. There had been no objection to it prior to or at the hearing.
Point of order. Point
Yes.
of order. John, I objected at the hearing, so I can talk about that after.
You objected at the hearing to the removal of the trees?
I spoke as a member of the public, and I'll tell you what I said and the response I got.
That would be interesting because that might well that would affect really what we do tonight. In terms of notices, there was notices in the Beacon of the hearing on July 2 and July 9th. That would be 2 successive weeks of announcements, with the second announcement being at least 7 days before the hearing on the 21st. On the tree warden side, he would be covered by the posting of the announcement in the Beacon. He did post on the two shade trees. It was posted on the town website. There was not a second posting, such as on the front door of town hall or in the interior of the public safety building. So his notice is technically deficient. David, just tell me a little more what you said that night, because what I was prepared to recommend to the board is if the notice was without getting into the 1991 policy, which is a board policy. It's not a town bylaw, and could easily be subject to court challenge. So, I was thinking before what you had said, probably the way to deal with this would be to instruct the tree warden to have a rehearing with the full proper notice. There would be objections to it, I take it from you and Richard Kelleher, and then the matter would come to us, for a decision. But if you tell us what you said that night at the combined hearing.
So first of all, I live on High Street. I can see these trees from my house. The only thing I have in common with Sarah Palin. I understand that the trees need to be removed for sight lines for the driveway. I accept that. I suggested and that the developer has to pay the town for removing our trees. I suggested to the developer in this meeting that I would like to see replacement trees planted that did not interfere with the sight lines of the driveway. And the developer said, well, if that's what the town wants to spend their money on, they can do that. That wasn't the response I was looking for. But there was I was just commenting as a member of the public because I live nearby. I think, paying the town for the trees makes sense because the town owns the trees. But to keep up the scenic nature of High Street, I thought having the developer plant replacement trees of reasonable size. I mean, they're not going to be planting a 36-inch oak there, but obviously, but you could plant an oak that's going to grow into a 36-inch tree. Anyway, I didn't get a really welcome response.
Okay, sounds that way. So I guess the question for us is that David's objection, would satisfy the objection requirement under 87.4, taking the matter out of the hands of the tree warden and sending the matter for hearing to our board. I know Richard Keller would plan to speak. I think his plan was leave the trees up, and there's another way to build you an access road that leaves the two tall oak trees intact. So, that would be another option that would be presented to us. David?
Yeah, I think there are different ways to route the driveway. However, I'm not sure it can be done with safe sight lines. So, and that's important. And I recognized in that meeting that it was important. And all I was looking for was the developer to plant replacement trees, and I was rebuffed. And the developer said the town could plant replacement trees. And
he has to pay for the trees.
No, that's not what he didn't want to do that in the meeting. He said he would not pay for the trees, that if we wanted replacement trees, we would have to plant replacement trees.
Well, he should read the statute, because there would be compensation to the town for the removal of the trees that he has to pay for.
So he understands the compensation piece. But my input at the meeting, again, just as a member of the public and someone who lives just a block away, I'm not an official abutter or anything, so I didn't receive notice or anything. I'm not quite close enough for that. I may be one property away from that. But I felt that the town is being compensated for the trees because the town owns the trees. And so they have to pay us for the trees. Fine. But to keep up the scenic nature of High Street is a different matter, right? And that I felt that the developer should plant replacement trees. And the developer told me in that meeting that if we wanted to spend the compensation money on replacement trees or any other money, we could do that. But that's not what I was looking for. I mean, I'm just telling you as a resident, that's not what I was looking for, right? I think the town should be compensated for its trees. And I think to keep up the scenic nature of High Street, that the developer should plant replacement trees. That's just my opinion.
Dean first?
Yeah. As you folks know, I've got some familiarity with this situation. I think to David's point, the policy that was accepted in 1991 does state in section 6 that at the discretion of the tree warden, the applicant shall either arrange to plant suitable replacements using his own contractor working to the town's specifications, or B, make a cash contribution to the town to be used exclusively for the purchase and planting replacements and related expenses. So we can't get two bites at the apple under this policy if that's what we're going to go with, recognizing that it doesn't. It certainly is not the state law. So, I would think that either if we get to a situation with a hearing, if we decide to rehear this, we deal with the developer and tell them, you're going to be there with the equipment. Why don't you plant a couple of trees there? Tell us what the value of it is, and we could deduct that from I think he has agreed to compensate the town in the sum of, I think it's $10,400.
Yeah, that was what the tree wardens.
Yeah, that's the calculation. So, what that would do is, say the developer puts in a couple $1,000s worth of trees, and then balance could be used for tree planting elsewhere in town. the idea behind this is that sometimes if you take down a 45-inch diameter tree, there's not sufficient space on the site to plant 15 replacements. So, you replace what you can on site and then you move it around. Those are all things that could be negotiated, I think. I think the important point here is, was it clear that there was an objection made? If it was clear that was an objection was made, I'll accept David from what he's saying. Then I think rightly it probably should come back to us, and we could hold a hearing. It would not have to involve the planning board because nobody's objected to the stone wall removal. And then we'll deal with it. In my tenure as tree warden, we had a few occasions when things ended up coming before the board and decisions were made. I don't think that people should be overly enthusiastic for, I don't think the decision that this board might make would not impact any decision that the planning board has already made regarding the subdivision of the property. So I think it'd be sort of a limited decision. I've seen some ideas floated around here about, combining properties at 46 and also with 40 and, building a town road and all that sort of thing. That's well outside the purview of the Board of Selectmen. That's something that the planning board could take up or not. So I think, it should be a very limited decision. And I think since it appears that a valid objection was made, although perhaps not fully understood at the time, I also, want to defend the tree warden in this. Ryan is almost brand new at this. This, I think, was his first scenic roads hearing, although he has had other removal hearings. So, and Zoom and, things got very confused there. So I think, there was no ill will, I'm sure, on his part to ignore anybody. And sometimes developers get a little aggressive when they think you're costing them money. That's all I have to say on that.
Jim? Jim,
I think my question's been answered, which is we are not actually having a tree hearing right now. We're talking about whether we are scheduling one for the future.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, so
Well, I'll save all my detailed comments about why the trees should stay.
Okay, so it seems then there's three options, that are available to us. We could say that there was an element of a deficiency in the tree warden's notice that he did not get a second posting in a public place, and go back and instruct him to have a further hearing for which there would be objections, and then it would come right back to us. We could treat David's objection at the hearing as the objection that would send the decision to us for us to hold a hearing, or we could start getting into the wicket, which I'd rather not, of the 1991 board policy, and whether that is sort of on light footing. It's not a town, bylaw. It's 30 years old. I don't know how often it's been invoked, over these years. So given those three options, unless somebody has another option, what would the thoughts of each of you be? Joan or Dean? Dean?
Yeah, I think based on David Martin's presentation that he made an objection, although it probably was not understood as an objection. I think the best thing is to plan on having a hearing with the Board of Selectmen as if that objection was clearly understood at the time. I think that the town manager should speak with the tree warden and make sure that the developer understands that he can't take those trees down at this point. That has happened in the past, that people move very quickly when they think they've got the go-ahead. I think that it's important for John to reach out to the tree warden and make sure that that's understood. And we schedule a hearing, which, frankly, folks, this could be as much fun as a dangerous dog hearing.
I support Dean.
Okay. David?
I agree with Dean. I mean, I just want to make it clear. First of all, I have no objection to the tree warden. I think the tree warden did his job. I voiced my concern. You know, I thought the tree warden took it into account, decided one way. That's his prerogative. I also want to make it clear that I wasn't asking for 15 trees in replacement for the 2. And I also understand that the statute also only requires compensation, but I felt that since the town, there's 2 issues here, right? And I felt that the town, first of all, they're taking our trees, okay, one issue. The second issue is that they're damaging a scenic road, and I was asking for some consideration for damaging the scenic road. So that's, you know, I understand that it's not required, but I objected at the time.
Jim?
Yeah, I'm in favor of scheduling a hearing. There is a point about process here also to be made, which is if you look back at the form that the developer needs to fill out, any developer needs to fill out for a subdivision like this, there is not a specific question about, you know, are there public shade trees that would be coming down? So this whole topic got missed by the design review board and potentially by the planning board, but they might not have cared. And I think it behooves us to figure out what it would take to adjust that form so that we can learn about these issues much earlier in the process. The kind of solutions, the kind of creative solutions that Mr. Kelleher was coming up with are the kind of solutions that are much, much easier to talk about much earlier in the process. So I just wanted to have us make sure that you know, shade tree issues are noted as early as possible in a very visible and open way.
Okay, so I concur with the 4 of you, and so this doesn't go off into space, that we schedule the selectmen's hearing on the request to remove the 2 oak shade trees at 46 High Street for our next meeting on August 24. David?
John, there are a few people with their hands up.
Okay.
Do you want to take those now or wait for the 24th?
Why don't we hear comments? That's fair. Dean, do you have something first?
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm not sure that that anybody can get proper notice out, depending upon what notice needs to be sent out, to notify everyone that there will be this combined hearing.
Well, it's not a combined hearing.
To have this hearing about the trees.
It's just limited to trees.
Yeah, but, you know, depending upon what sort of notice you think is appropriate here, I don't know if that can be done between now and the 24th.
When you had such circumstances, when you were tree warden and someone objected to a request that was made to you to remove trees, and it came to the selectmen, what type of notice was given?
My recollection is we never put an additional notice in there. I think it just went on the agenda. And, you know, as tree warden, I would notify the person that made the objection. So I'm not sure that, but you had said earlier about, you know, additional notice so that everybody knows this thing is coming up. So
Well, we could put it on the trees.
Could put it on the trees or just put it on the, I'm not sure. I think the statute is silent on that. I know conversations I had with Steve Ledoux when he was town manager. Prior to his tenure in Acton, he was town manager in Westford. And up there, what they would do is they'd hold the tree warden hearing for removal of trees might be at 6:30 at night. And then if there were any objections, they went immediately to the selectmen's meeting because they already had a holding article and the agenda for the selectmen, so there would not be a delay of time. But I think it's just important that we decide right now what sort of notice do you think is sufficient to give to the people that have made these objections. As I say, the statute is silent on that.
Yeah. David's here. Is Richard Kelleher in the audience?
Yes, I can call on him next, but we probably should put out a notice which would be in the paper the Thursday before the 24th. Right, because if they're able to send the notice to the paper this week, there will be next Thursday's paper, and which is the Thursday before the meeting on the 24th, whatever day of the week that is.
Okay, that would be
The 20th.
anybody.
The 20th.
Anybody have?
That would be come out in the paper on the 20th.
Okay, so that's Thursday, August 20th, for the hearing on the 24th. And plus, we could attach notices to the 2 trees, that same notice.
The trees still have the notice on, but we can put another notice on.
We could put a new notice. Dean, would that seem sensible to you?
That would seem sensible. The town manager is rolling his eyes right now, so you might want to see what he thinks he can do.
What does the manager think?
No, it's dark in here. You can't see my eyes. I wasn't rolling my eyes. I don't know that newspaper would be required. I think just proper notification on an agenda 48 hours in advance, and then notifying the applicant and any parties that voice their objections would be sufficient. But we can certainly do a newspaper if you'd like us to.
Okay. Dean?
I'll agree with the manager. Just put it on the agenda, and we've certainly got some email trails of folks that have raised some objections to this.
So put it on the agenda. Notify the people who have sent us emails on the subject. Do we need notice in the Beacon? David?
No, I guess not. So John and Dean think not, so I'm fine with that.
Okay. So citizen comments, please.
Okay. This is Mr. Kelleher. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for putting this on your agenda. I really appreciate that. Sorry to take all of your time, but these are gorgeous trees and really will impact the appearance of High Street. I really hope John Mangiarati will talk to the developer tomorrow to stop. I'm every time I go out there, I'm afraid I'm going to I'm going to hear saws from my house. So I only have, we will talk about it at the hearing, but I think I sent you a drawing with 3 options, and there's actually a 4th one. There's an option which would combine the driveways, and it gets into the issue of how many driveways can you have and not get into a public way. And so that may be a non-starter. There's a second way to do it, which isn't in the 3, and that is a second preferred way to do it from my point of view, would be to have the access to 46 be via an easement on 40. Of course, that means that 40 has to agree to it, but it's worth trying because that would save both trees. The third one, and I will send a new set of options to you so you have it in writing, is to put the driveway where the current driveway is to 46 and widening it as necessary by taking out one smaller oak tree on the Audubon Hill entrance. That's the southern side of that entrance. So that would save the two bigger trees. And furthermore, those two bigger trees are the last ones in the row so that they anchor the end of the row. This smaller tree neither does that, and it is smaller. And then there's a fourth way, which would just take down the 35-inch tree. And I think, although some engineering would have to be done to actually check the dimensions and the sight lines, and leave the 44-inch. So I would like those discussed. Probably the first one ruled out of hand, maybe by the board. Probably the developer would scream at that, and then to seriously discuss the other three. But that's all I have to say. I appreciate your time and effort.
On one of your comments, Richard, I did speak with one of the Stamsky engineers today, and they had no plans to begin work on the project until early September. The tree removal would be one of their early action items. I told him we'd be back to him with what our plans were, but it may well be that the order, the tree warden's order is going to get stayed. So you cannot move ahead until there's a further order from the selectmen. So that we do need to communicate that to probably counsel for the developer. That would be the responsible thing to do. David?
So the counsel for the developer is on. I can call on him if you'd like.
Sure.
And I just want to say to everyone else, please put your street in the chat if you want me to call on you. If you haven't identified yourself, I won't be calling on you. Okay, Mr. Bobowski.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Mark Bobrowski. I am an attorney. My office is in Concord's Damon Mill, and I represent Steel Harbor in the instant matter. A couple of things to sort of set the table here, if I might. I did not hear Mr. Martin say that when he attended the tree warden's public hearing that he objected in writing. He said that he stated an objection, but that's not what the statute calls for. It's quite specific. It says there has to be an objection in writing provided at or before the hearing as provided in section 3. Can we cover that ground first?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, David?
I did not object in writing, but others did object in writing. And if you look through the email to the board, there are objections in writing.
I'm certainly not. I've seen a letter from Mr. Kelleher, and I believe there was another person who made a written communication that I've at least been provided one copy of, but they both came after the public hearing.
It would have to be, he's correct. It has to be in writing either before the hearing or at the hearing.
So under the circumstances then, it seems to me that we go back to section 3 of the chapter 87, which says that the notice of the hearing has to be posted in 2 or more public places in town. There doesn't seem to be any other defect worth talking about. It was posted on the tree. It was advertised correctly on the proper dates in the newspaper. And the question is whether it was posted in 2 or more public places. Now, I heard and understood earlier that it was posted on the town's website. Was it posted in any other physical location other than the tree?
No, it wasn't.
Does the posting on the website constitute 2 or more other places, or is it just one?
It constitutes, at least one.
Yeah. Well, if my point is this, if there was a defect associated with the posting in 2 or more places, then the tree warden's hearing was null and void. And
yeah, okay.
And that would
then we just start again.
You'd have to do it over. And that would mean that going to the Board of Selectmen on an order of notice would jump the statutory gun.
Well, I suppose we could do it the way they do it in Westford, as Dean suggested, and schedule the tree warden's hearing for 6:30 on August 24th. And if there's an objection, since everyone's there, we could take it up at our meeting on the 24th. Does that make sense?
I think that's the way to fix the procedural defect. Yes, that would work.
And you're comfortable with that?
I don't, it's COVID time, so was it posted in 2 or more places? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, no. The way to have the further, we'd have to, if we have to do it again, it's 2 publications in the Beacon, plus the notice on the 2 trees, plus two public postings. One could be the town website. The other, could be on the front door window of town hall, or in the lobby of the public safety building, I suppose.
I suppose you're right. I assume when he went to do this work back in early July, it was more difficult to get into town hall than it might be today. But every town hall.
No, we just missed on the 2 public postings.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the procedural steps here because it looks like there are some very concerned citizens, and they have certainly the right to appeal any of these decisions, and I don't want to have a procedural defect to fight as well. So.
Okay, so what it's going to require then, since you are absolutely correct that the objection by Mr. Martin wasn't in writing, so the statute's very clear that it had to be a written objection. So we have to start again.
I have no objection to your having the tree warden hearing and marching into the Board of Selectmen's meeting if there's a written protest or objection received at the tree.
Well,
warden.
there will be, yeah.
I'm sure there will be too. Right.
It also, might, behoove you if you sat down with Mr. Kelleher and see what you might be able to work out between now and then. He's not objecting to the subdivision; it's just the access road and the trees.
Well, I've seen some of Mr. Kelleher's ideas, and frankly, he lives remote to this location, and they're not ideas at this point that we're interested in pursuing. But with regard to compensating for the loss of the trees, my client has already indicated that he's willing to make good on that. So that should not be in dispute at this time.
Okay, David, you had your hand up.
Yes, there was an objection to the planning board and the board of selectmen at 1:23 a.m. on the 21st, which is the day the hearing was held. So that's about 18 hours ahead of the hearing. That objection objected to the postings and taking down the trees. I'd be happy to forward that again to the board, but it should be in your email.
There's an email on that would have been on the 21st?
It is on the 21st at 1:23 a.m., so about 18 hours before the hearing.
And who did the email get sent to, if I might, Mr. Chairman?
The planning board and the board of selectmen. And
so that was an objection to, there was a notice objection, and there was an
objection to taking down the trees. The planning department responded to the notice objection and listed the notices that had occurred.
John?
Yes, I think given what what the board's just discussed, I think that having a tree warden hearing reboot with a board of selectmen meeting scheduled shortly thereafter is the right course to take here. And I think in both scenarios, there's a board of selectmen discussion planned for 2 weeks. So I think that's a good path forward.
But it's going to take it'll probably have to go off until sometime in September, because of the 2 successive weeks And then with the second publication being at least 7 days before the hearing.
Was
And
the
wait.
tree warden copied on the email that you're referring to, Mr. Martin?
No, wait. No,
Law is never easy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's hear if I think there's some further public comments, and then we can come to a resolution on this. David?
yeah, that's okay. So, the next person is Jude Ernstine.
Yes,
Judy?
Judith Ernstine at 3 Gregory Lane, Acton. I just sort of have a question about the planning board's involvement at this point. It sounds like I'm really appreciative of Mr. Kelleher and all his alternatives, and I looked at some of them very briefly, and I couldn't find them right now. And I'm just curious how the planning board becomes part of this, because it seems like David was mentioning there's a sightline concern, but it does seem like there are alternatives. And, you know, I've done housing projects and there's always something else you just haven't thought of. And I think that it would behoove the board to really include the planning. I don't know how that works. Like, just
We don't have to. It's a scenic road, and it covers both stone wall removals and tree removals, and you have a combined hearing of the two boards. The decisions are made separately. The planning board makes the decision with respect to the stone wall. That's not being challenged. And the tree warden makes the decision as to the trees to be removed. That's the decision that's being objected to. So we could leave the planning board stone wall piece out of this and just focus on the two trees.
understood. It does seem that the access would be different and could save the trees, and it will involve another part of the wall if the access is different. I'm guessing. So, anyways, it just in the efforts to save time and energy. I don't know how that you include the planning board or not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jim?
In response to Ms. Ernstine's question, one possible path is that if the selectmen decide to not allow the removal of one or both of the trees, the applicant may in turn decide to return to the planning board to say, oh, you know, we'd like to change our plan a little bit because we can't remove this tree. So there's a process that could move it forward.
Thank you.
Okay. So further public comments?
Yeah. David Hahn? He may have disconnected.
So is there anyone else?
Yep, 1 second, please. Call on user 1.
Hi, Sarah from West Acton. Thank you for letting me speak. First of all, yes, I did object to the removal of the trees on several occasions, at least a couple in writing ahead of time. I also objected because at the hearing, they never said, and you can listen to the recording, I'm almost positive, they never asked for the public comment. So David Martin was identified on Zoom as waiting to speak, and he was called upon, but they never said any other members of the public. There was never a chance to make comment or to object at the hearing. So thank you for, one thing is I would like you very much to ask the DRB to re-review or review the alternative being proposed, because the DRB, as far as I understand, was not aware of these public shade trees And I think it's really important for the DRB to be aware of them when they make their finding, as Jeff is saying, to understand early where the public assets are is much better. It's much more efficient for everybody, you know, and get better designs and save money for whoever thinks they've got to do that work. So, so thank you for letting me comment, and that's it. Thanks.
And maybe one more.
Okay.
Ms. Tobin, did you want to speak?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to support what Jude Aaronstein said. And thank you for taking me on. Susan Tobin from Hillside Terrace. And I'm concerned about, I didn't know about this happening, so I'm glad that you're going to be doing the two reports in the Beacon and giving the public a time to respond. And I'm just curious, how old are these trees and how difficult would it be to replace them? Because replacing an older, healthy tree is not that easy. And has that been taken into consideration?
They're 44 inches and 35 inches in diameter, respectively. So that makes them, I don't know, I'm guessing probably 50 years old, something like that. I don't know the age really, but they don't grow that fast.
Dean?
Yeah, I'd say that, you know, they're probably at least 100 years old.
So,
and impossible to actually replace in kind.
That's right. And if they're 100 years old and they qualify as old growth forest or old growth, they may qualify as old growth tree. And there's an old growth forest network that may have some input. But I would really I think there would be more people that would miss these trees if they were taken.
Okay.
So those are all the people who identified themselves.
Okay, so it seems like
John, I saw David Hahn on there briefly. Is he?
Yeah, I allowed him to speak, but he didn't speak.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it would seem to me then that the appropriate thing to do would be to just do a do-over where we renotice the tree hearing. And I gather that would require 2 weeks of Beacon publications, 2 public postings, and postings on the 2 trees. And we have to schedule it where that hearing would be at 6:30 at night. There will be objections, so that hearing would end very quickly without a decision being made, and it would come to us for the formal hearing. Does that make sense to all?
Yes. Mr. Bobowski has raised his hand again as well.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Time is of the essence in this matter. I've heard evidence that there was an email which was submitted on the day of the public hearing. The last speaker indicated that she submitted something in writing. At this point, I'm certainly willing to waive my procedural objections to going forward on the 24th at a Board of Selectmen posted public hearing and avoiding going back to the tree warden. So we'll concede that there was an objection in writing based upon the email. I would like to get a copy of it, obviously, as well as any other materials that were submitted in writing prior to or at the public hearing. But we can't afford to dilly-dally here until November, carrying this out through the appeal period.
Okay, so board members, do you understand what Mr. Borowski said, that he would waive any procedural objection? He will say yes, an objection to the proposed tree removal was made timely. That would take the decision away from the tree warden and place it in our court. So no need for a do-over. We could just have the hearing on the hearing before the selectmen on the 24th. Are we all good with that? Jim? Have a thumbs up. Okay. Joan, Dean? Mr. Manager? Two thumbs up. Okay. So, that's good, and we'll put it on for the 24th. I would imagine the format for the hearing would be Mark. Your last name is Mark Bobrowski. Would you would make the presentation for the tree removal? And then there would be anybody who wishes to oppose would follow, and then the board would make a decision.
I would certainly hope the tree warden would be there to defend his original decision.
Well, that decision shouldn't have been. Well, that decision, I guess, shouldn't have been. Dean, would that be appropriate to have the tree warden there?
Yeah, I think that's only fair that the tree warden be included. He might have some insight in his decision-making process. As far as his understanding of what sort of grade changes and that sort of thing were going to be done there. So I think it would be beneficial to have him have some input.
David?
I agree. I think we may want to ask the tree warden questions. I think he should be there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so in terms of the format, Mr. Bobrowski, should we begin with the tree warden or should we begin with you? What would be, so it flows?
I'm happy with either order. If the tree warden would like to go second, then I will go first. But I'll talk with him, or if you'll allow me to speak with him in advance, we can arrange that. But one of the two of us will go first.
All right, well, why don't we have you go first, have him go second, explain the decision, and then we can take citizen comments, and then the board would make the decision.
Fair enough.
Okay, and just one further word, pending a decision of the select board, that we have your word that there'll be no taking down of the two trees.
I can assure you that my client is listening eagerly to this phone call. So
I take it that's a yes.
That's a yes.
So the takedown of the trees has stayed. Okay, so I think we're all comfortable there. Okay. All right, well done. The 24th.
Thank you.
And we'll put it on early that night.
That's appreciated.
Good. Okay. So our next order of business, I think we discussed the pilot agreement related to the Acton Water District solar projects earlier. So if we could move to the vote or the discussion on the joint letter from the Selectmen and the Acton Community Housing Corporation in support of the residences at Kelly's Corner. That's the 446 Massachusetts Avenue affordable housing project. Steve Jonkus, the developer, approached Janet Adachi and I. Janet has taken over as chairman of the ACHC, asking us if we would put a letter together setting forth all of the actual cash contribution commitments, in kind commitments that we have made to the project, which he wants to include in his filing for state funding. In the packet that you received is the draft letter, as well as all the supporting material that's to support the representations that are made in the letter. Earlier today, the ACHC approved the draft letter. Are there any comments from board members? Are there any comments from the public? So being none, could I have a motion to authorizing myself as chair to sign the letter in support of the financial contributions made to the Kelly's Corner.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? We need a vote, roll call vote.
Mr. Snyder Grant,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Charter,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
and I'm also aye, so it's unanimous.
Okay. So then a similar request for support was made from the United Way, the board to vote and discuss on the Acton-Boxborough United Way chalk walk community event for the use of town sidewalks. John?
So the United Way is looking for the use of the sidewalks, and since the Board of Selectmen are the oversee the right of way, it requires your authorization to occupy that space for that time being. The detailed proposal was provided in the packet for the board to review, and there is a member of the board of the United Way here tonight if there's any questions. Katie rather,
Katie Neville. Would you like me to let her speak, John?
please.
Katie?
Oh,
Good evening. I'm also happy to yield to Karen Collins, who's our board president, who's here tonight. So I'm happy to address any questions as well. But forward to addressing you all.
Okay, I let Karen speak as well.
Hi there, thank you. Nice to meet you. Does anyone have any questions?
Which sidewalks?
We are hoping to do this in the West Acton Village and have it go from right in front of the West Acton Village and around the corners. We're expecting to sell around 100 to 200 spaces on the sidewalk. So if we sell a lot of sidewalk space, it could run down Route 111 from the corner of Arlington along to the junior high.
David?
Yeah, is this just as the name implies, just sidewalk chalk, no paint or anything permanent?
Correct. It's non-toxic, high quality chalk.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further comments? Okay, so David, please call the roll.
Mr. Snyder Grant,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Charter,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
and I'm also aye, so it's unanimous.
Okay.
Terrific.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good work, and thank you for taking this on.
Yes, good luck.
And all the good work you're doing.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate this.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Okay, so the next matter is the request to raise the flag of the country of India to commemorate India's Independence Day on August 15th. You have the packet of materials. There just seem to be the ceremony and how we might go about it. request. This is the 74th anniversary of Indian Independence Day. It's on the 14th. Should Saturday not work, they're happy to do it on the 14th. And there were also issues about flagpoles, and I looked at Dean on this as to the logistics of flags, our flag and the Indian flag, respectively. What your thoughts, Dean, please?
Okay, yeah, this came up in the past with another request some years ago. And my suggestion is there's a couple of items. One is, how do we do it? How do we do it respectfully for the Indian flag or whatever flag is coming up there? How do we do it respectfully for the American flag and our history? And I want to make sure that we don't set a precedent so that we might be unhappy with. So my suggestion is this. In front of Town Hall, we have two flagpoles. One has the American flag. The other one has the Commonwealth of Massachusetts flag. I would suggest that for events like this, we allow folks to run up the national flag of another country in place of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts flag. And this would kind of be a similar arrangement to what you see in front of hotels and the UN and that sort of thing. So they would be of equal height. I think people are very sensitive. Initially, there was some thought that they're going to take down the flag off the Isaac Davis Monument, the American flag, and run up a flag of a foreign country. And I think everybody would be opposed to that. So I think this might be a good alternative, something that we can manage. We don't have to worry about putting up a temporary flagpole from time to time. And I've got a proposed motion. The other item that I think is important is that we try to keep some control over this, being mindful of some pushback on things like when they're in paintings, Black Lives Matter on streets, and suddenly the street becomes a public display area, and other groups would want to come in and place their own statements. So I'd like to make sure that doesn't happen here. So my suggestion is that we only allow this to happen once for each country, once per year, and that we only allow the current national flag of a sovereign nation to be flown. I don't think any of us want to see historical flags from either some region of the United States or from some country that no longer exists be flown. So my motion is as follows. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve a policy that would allow the display of the current flag of a sovereign nation in place of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts flag in front of Town Hall under the following conditions. 1, the request must be made by an Acton resident and the flag must be supplied by the person making the request. 2, each nation gets this permission once annually and the flag will be flown for no more than 1 day. And if somebody would like to second it, we could certainly discuss it.
Second.
Okay, I don't believe it was made by an Acton resident, the request.
Well, I think, my response to that is that you've got until the 14th to find an Acton resident who would like to sponsor it. I don't think we should be in the business of sponsoring requests or responding requests from folks not in Acton for what's going to be displayed on our town common.
Jim?
I don't think that would be a hard push to find someone.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that when I saw this request, I did reach out to at least one member of the Indian community who lives in Acton, who would be happy to be involved and actually wants to make sure that Acton residents are involved in this effort and in this event.
That's very good. Okay. Any further comments on Dean's motion? David?
John, I just wanted to say that I don't have a comment. I'm very supportive, but there are two members of the public who would like to speak.
Please.
Barry Rosen, please go ahead.
Hi, guys. Barry Rosen here. I just had two questions. One, Dean sort of addressed one of them, because the organization I saw was a non-acting organization. The person was from a non-acting organization. But I guess we can find somebody in Acton that can sponsor it. But I also wonder if Dean's motion would go to any country, or would there be some restrictions on what countries' flags could be displayed?
Dean?
Yeah, my intent here would be that that it would be any sovereign nation. I don't want to get into the business of choosing winners and losers. This whole thing can spin out of control very quickly. So I'm just trying to make it as inclusive as possible. The importance being that it be an existing sovereign nation, and hopefully we can all agree on that. Although we might not agree with the political policies of some other countries, but just to try to acknowledge, since we have such a diverse population in town as far as people's countries of origin.
Okay, John, can I call the next person?
Yeah, please.
Sahana, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Sahana Purohit from Blueberry Path. Actually, Jim Snyder Grant reached out to me, and this is actually a very good thing. India Association of Greater Boston is one of the associations of many that we have in the New England area. If it's needed, if you guys want a resident of Acton to sponsor this, I would be happy to do that, because I think this is a wonderful opportunity for for the town to recognize another ethnic community in the town with quite a big population here. Having said that, I'm pretty sure the Indian community in the town would be very happy to hear this, and there will be quite a few volunteers who would come forward to proceed with this. And I did also hear from a few friends that other towns around the Commonwealth are actually supporting this and going forward with this. So I would be happy and willing to do this. Thank you.
Okay, Sahana, we could count on you as being the Acton sponsor?
Yes, I would be.
Okay, and the preferred date would be the true Independence Day, Saturday the 15th.
I would prefer that, given
Okay.
that 14th is a working day. 15th would be ideally the best thing. And I hope, since it's almost like 5 days away, I can reach out to IAGB and see if they would still like to proceed with this. I can see what they want to do, if they want to go ahead with it this year, or if they are too busy not to do this. So we can circle around. But if I get a go from you, I will do that.
Yep, yeah,
And John, there's just one more.
please.
Nayana Tobin, please go ahead.
Nayana, you appear to be muted.
I've tried unmuting her, but
Sorry, thank you. I was talking about the tree situation, so you've passed that. So
okay, thank you. That's all then, John.
Okay, so are there any further comments on Dean's motion? It's been moved and seconded.
Just
So-
to say, sorry.
Jim?
Just to say, I think it's a really thoughtful approach to the question, and I really appreciate Dean for thinking it through.
Okay, so if, David, if you'd call the roll?
Mr. Snyder Grant,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Charter,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
and I also say aye, so it's unanimous.
Okay, so Sahana, would you, from your end, pull it together? Is Sahana still on the?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I can actually, I'm going to reach out to a few friends on IAGB and see what they've got to say. And I will actually email the board tomorrow once I hear from them.
Sure, and just coordinate with John as to logistics, and I plan to be there, and I hope other board members will be there.
Okay. Sounds fun.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item would be vote to sign resolution of support for House 2849 and Senate 1940, an act for utility transition to using renewable energy future. Jim, would you?
Sure. It's a little complicated, so let me get my notes up here. So as you can see in your packet, the Green Advisory Board has wrestled with this complicated Future Act more than once, but has forwarded you a letter to sign and support the House and Senate bills. The interesting thing here is that those particular bills and those numbers have been left in the side of the road in the aftermath of the rapid legislative process. However, the language in those bills, much of it has been reattached to House Bill 4933 and Senate Bill 2500, the two climate bills that are just now going into the joint conference process. So I spoke to Mothers Out Front, who had brought this act originally to the Green Advisory Board a number of months ago, and they report that this would still be very useful. The support could go to the conference committee members to help them understand, which towns are in favor of these kinds of actions. For those of you that happen not to have read the Future Act recently, there's really two parts. One part's related to gas leak repairs, and the House bill of these two bills that are now in conference committee includes new requirements for gas leak safety and repairs that are similar to the Future Act. The Senate bill does not. So this is a real issue for the conference committee to work out. The other part is related to phasing out natural gas delivery systems in favor of allowing the gas utilities to operate basically a hierarchy of ground source heat pump systems running along existing gas utility easements that would transfer thermal energy into existing or new heating systems. The House bill has language to allow the utilities to pilot this, what they call a geothermal micro-district concept. Eversource has expressed an interest in trying this out in 3 different places. Eversource is not our gas supplier here in Acton, but they are the gas supplier for many other towns across Massachusetts. They're interested in trying this out to understand if it provides them a way forward to still have these gas right-of-ways, but do something else in them that's not related to fossil fuels. Another part of the Future Act was going to have very aggressive targets for making this transition. Those targets are not in the current legislation. There was changes in targets for emissions getting to 80% below the current levels, the levels in 2010 and to net zero, but not as aggressive as the Future Act was calling for. And that's actually interesting because that aggressive target was the main concern from the Green Advisory Board about the Future Act. So with that one concern no longer part of the active legislation, I think it would be very fine for the board to okay the signing off on the letter.
So move.
I'll second. I'll second.
Okay, any further comments from the public?
Hand is raised.
Sure.
Judy Anderson, please go ahead.
Thanks, Judith Aaronstein, 3 Gregory Lane, Acton. I really appreciate your thinking about it, and Jim, you're diving into the details. It is not clear. It's a complicated bill, and we clearly, I spent a lot of time with the Green Advisory Board and brought in a lawyer as well, so I really appreciate this, and it will be useful, even though it's in conference, for them to figure out and to know that the 20,000 people of Acton are represented there. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, can I say one other thing?
Sure.
Yeah. The one thing that I think is really exciting about this bill is that the electric companies have been told that they have to get more renewable, and they're doing it. And the renewable portfolio standard increases every year. But this is the first time the gas companies are really being told, what can you do? And they're giving the opportunity to pilot these things. So that's where I think this is really groundbreaking and exciting. So thank you. Great.
Thank you. So if there's no further comments, let's proceed to our roll call vote.
Should I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Mr. Snyder Grant?
Aye.
Ms. Gardner?
Aye.
Mr. Charter?
Aye.
Mr. Benson?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, so it's unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a sensitive and warming one, agenda item. This was from the board to accept a donation of a service dog from Puppies Behind Bars. Is Detective Stackhouse available now?
Yes, I think so. Go ahead.
John? John? Could you unmute? John?
I'm here.
All right. Could you make your presentation and explain our newest Actonian?
So I have
Zane.
Yes, so attended a 2-week training in upstate New York, the end of June, beginning of July. Been working on this for quite some time. It's an organization, it's a nonprofit based out of Manhattan called Puppies Behind Bars. The organization raises and trains Labrador Retrievers in 7 different correctional facilities in the state of New York. And since the dogs go into the prison when they're 8 weeks old and come out when they're about 17 to 19 months of age, and they are fully trained service animals. The organization was started after 9/11 for combat veterans and has transformed into first responders who suffer from PTSD and anxiety and other mental illnesses. I was the first full law enforcement class to graduate after the 10 days of the training. It was myself, a Yale University officer, and FBI agent from San Diego, and a retired New York City police officer. So we were fortunate enough to graduate, and we now have with your approval, a fully trained service dog that will benefit our first responders here in town, as well as many others in the community, as well as the schools when we can get back to that normal state. The dog is valued at approximately $48,000, and the dog food for the dog has been donated by Loyal Companion of Acton, and his veterinary care has also been generously donated by Dr. Kelman from Great Road Veterinary.
Where does this food come from?
Loyal Companion up on Great Road.
Okay. How many commands does Zane respond to?
92.
Okay. Is Zane available now?
He is saying, speak. Speak. Hey. Speak. He's looking at the phone going, I don't understand this. We haven't taught him on Zoom yet, but
Move to accept the donation of same.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the audience, from the participants?
No one
Okay,
with their hand raised.
Okay. Please.
Okay, Mr. Snyder Grant,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Charter,
Aye.
Mr. Benson.
Aye.
I also say aye with gratitude.
thank you very much.
John, well done.
Good
Thank you.
dog, Zane. Good dog.
Okay, so our final item under new special business is to approve the outdoor dining application for Teamworks doing business as Overtime Bar and Grill at 30 Great Road. John?
This is one of the businesses that is a liquor license holder, and the board has the requirement to review any plans for these businesses to start serving outside, which is a new ability that they have now. I believe there are still a handful of businesses that have not come before the board for a plan, but we're happy to see Teamworks here with the plan. Lisa's been working with them, and I believe any comments we received from staff would be in the packet. So if there are any other questions, I can try to track them down.
Move to approve.
Is
Second.
there a second?
Second.
Any discussion from board members? Any discussion from the public?
No.
Then David, just call the roll, please.
Mr. Snyder Grant? I think you're muted.
I'm sorry?
Just waiting for Jim to respond. He says thumbs up, so I'm recognizing his thumbs up. Ms. Gardner?
Aye.
Mr. Charter?
Aye.
Mr. Benson?
Aye.
And I also say aye, so that's unanimous.
Okay, so there are a number of consent items. I'll just go through them. Number 15, approve meeting minutes, June 15, June 22 and 29, July 6th and July 13th, all 2020. 16, accept gift Acton Nursing Services from John Snyder for $100 towards the Acton Nursing Services Gift Fund. 17, accept gift Council on Aging from John and Nicola Collins for $100 to the Council of Aging, to the Council on Aging Gift Fund in memory of Ray Reeves. 18, accept gift Recreation Department from Kate Fenninger for $50 towards constructing a dog park in Acton. Number 19, accept gift Acton Police Department from Ernest Glenn for $25 towards the police donation account.
Move to approve 15 through 19.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, David please call the roll.
Mr. Snyder Grant?
Aye.
Ms. Gardner?
Aye.
Mr. Charter?
Aye.
Mr. Benson?
Aye.
And I also say aye.
Okay, so that would conclude all our business for the evening. Is there anything else? Other than a reminder, we have a workshop on Thursday morning at 8:30. David's proposed plan for the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee will be in our hands tomorrow morning. And I look forward to a thoughtful and careful discussion on Thursday morning.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
David, last time to call the roll this evening.
Mr. Snyder Grant?
Aye.
Ms. Gardner?
Aye.
Mr. Charter?
Aye.
Mr. Benson?
Aye.
And I also say aye, so we're adjourned.
Okay, thank you all very much.